Hey friends, this is a first. We're doing an unscripted podcast style Q&A. We're gonna be talking minimalism, motherhood, slow living, babies, all the things, faith, all the things. You guys had a lot of really good questions. Snuggle in, we'll just have a unfiltered chat about all of the fun things. One of the more common questions I got was like, how did you get started into minimalism? What did that look like? Was your husband on board? What were you doing before? What led you to start the channel? So I'm just gonna share a little bit about our family's journey. Okay. For many years, my prior career, I had like 2 careers. I grew up in SoCal, in LA, and I was an actor all my life. I had a lot of health issues, hormone issues at a very young age, partly from an eating disorder. Being in that industry has certain influences. And so I developed a lot of hormone issues at a young age, hypothalamic amenorrhea, PCOS. I truly believe also undiagnosed endometriosis. All that to say, I kind of hit this tipping point around college and I decided to stop performing arts, stop acting, stop auditioning, and I wanted to go to school for something completely different. I actually studied neuropsychology at Berkeley. I loved it. It was an emphasis in neuroscience. I wanted to go into psychology. I wanted to be able to work with women who had disordered eating habits. I got certified as an eating psychology coach, so it was like the intersection between, this is not even about minimalism. This is like a long story long. Anyway, it was like the intersection between dietetics and physiology and someone's relationship with food and like psychology. And I loved it. And that was what I did. I started my own business when I was 21. That was the previous business I did. I did social media, I did coaching, I had courses, and I loved a lot of that. And so I really just continued my education with hormones, physiology, natural health, psychology, and I did that for probably 4 or 5 years. I quit and got pregnant and then became a mom. And I feel like our entry into minimalism started there because, to be completely honest, I was very into, like, had a lot of technology in my life because to me, minimalism is a lot about my physical clutter, but it was also very much about my technology clutter. And so I was running a business online. That was all I knew. I grew up acting. So like being on camera, having camera, looking at my phone, like it was just so much of my life was media centered my entire life. And so honestly, it wasn't until I got pregnant and became a mom, and I've shared this before, that really it was my technology clutter. It was like my technology clutter, and then decluttering my closet was my first foray into opening my eyes to just how cluttered and chaotic my life was, and how decluttering various aspects of my life brought a lot of peace and made room for joy. I remember my husband watching me on this journey because it was like 6 months postpartum. I started with my closet, got down to a 10-item wardrobe, which I've made videos about. I had been doing my year-long no TV experiment, which I also have a video about. And so it was like all these things. I was just kind of like stripping away all of these layers. And it was very slow. It wasn't like I read a certain minimalist book and was like, I'm gonna get into minimalism. And I honestly don't even feel like I can even answer all these questions about it because I'm very much still in process about it. And so I don't ever want to come across like I'm an expert or this and that. This is just about 3 years now of a journey onto a more decluttered, simple, slower life that has really just enriched so much. It's enriched my faith, my walk with the Lord. It has enriched my relationship with my daughter, our marriage, just how I enjoy everyday life, like really loving the life that I lead, the very simple life that I have, finding so much more peace and contentment where I am. When I became a mom, it forced me to slow down. I had no distractions. I was not working. I was taking care of this newborn. I was up hours of the night, and I just feel like time stood still for like that first 6 months, and I just kind of reevaluated a lot of things in my life. Why was it so hard for me to operate at a slower pace? Why was it so hard for me to not have the input of so much media? You know, like a lot of these questions happened, and I realized that I just felt so claustrophobic in my life. Like I just felt like this need to get space. And for me, that started in my closet because I was way different size than I was before I had her. And none of my clothes fit, or if they fit, they didn't fit right. Cause you know, my boobs were huge and I was leaking and like all these things that you feel when you're a new mom. And I went, and my closet was full of clothes, and I just was like, I need to get rid of this. Like I just needed to bring order into this small area of my life. And I just got rid of so many clothes. I did. And it was such a breath of fresh air that I started working my way through my entire house. And at the same time, I started doing my no TV. So I did like no entertainment. 6 months later, no social media. It was just like this one thing after another. I think honestly what really I learned, and which is why I started this channel, was because what I was noticing was, as someone that always struggled with discontentment, like nothing was good enough. I always needed to achieve this thing, and I was such a dreamer and I was so ambitious. And these were traits that were like affirmed in me as growing up, because I was an achiever and I was very ambitious and I worked really hard. But deep down, I had a spirit that was never content. Like I was never content with what I had. I always wanted more, and I always wanted to be more and do more and accomplish more. And it really went over that line into, I'm ungrateful for what I have or where I am, or I just want to be out of the season that I am because it's not enough. And it's this like ever-present thirst for more. It just steals your joy. I mean, that's what it did to me. Going forward, like I don't want to let a single season of my life go by where I am robbed of the possible contentment and joy and the goodness that each season holds, even during hard ones. Because my family and I, we've walked through grief, we've walked through loss, we've walked through some hard things, especially in the last 5 years. And I know that there is goodness to be seen in those seasons. And I've experienced that even in hard seasons. And so that's really why I started this channel, was because as I was minimizing, like going through all these things, and what drew me to it was just feeling like I needed to remove the distraction and be able to quiet my mind in order to actually see the goodness of where I was. It didn't even come from feeling like I have too much stuff, or seeing, you know, a minimalist documentary and thinking, oh, that's a cool way to live. It was much more emotional for me. It was much more psychological. And what ended up happening, crazy enough, it was like as I was removing all of these things from my life, I felt like God was doing that in my heart. It would be like I was going through old hurts and wounds, and like things I didn't even know I was hanging on to were being released. It was just a process of letting go. That's what minimalism has been to me. It looks different for every family, you know? Like if you walked into my house, we have things on the wall, we have like some decorations on the counter. Like to some people, it doesn't look like a minimalist home. But to me, I feel like that's a weird definition because each family will be different. So that's what drew me to a minimal life. That was the longest possible way to answer that question. Why I started this YouTube channel. You know, I wanted to share this, but it felt very odd for me because my whole life I had only ever shared things that I felt like I was supposed to be sharing, like with my background in health. If you actually look at my YouTube channel, I started a YouTube channel 2 years ago under a different name. I made like 4 videos, but it was under postpartum health because I'm very passionate about that. I'm still very passionate about that. Bioenergetics and really teaching women their physiology and helping them to have healthy, robust, resilient bodies so that they can show up in their life as moms. That's why I made the Nourished Mama course. That was what I was doing. I love nerding out about physiology. I've studied it and been in that world for over a decade. However, if anything, I have learned that the more in the health sphere I have been, the more I learn that it is so much more than what you eat, what supplements you take, and what you do for exercise. The health world likes to make it seem like it's just about those things, but your relationships, your thoughts, how you feel in your life, how you move throughout your day, like wellness, contentment, those things are so much bigger than what the health industry wants to make it about. And that's really actually why I talk about so many different things on my channel, because my heart is that I would help women really truly feel well in their life. Another minimalist question I got was, how do you deal with people giving gifts to your daughter when you don't want them? Thank goodness I definitely have some family members that are a lot more conscientious, and they'll say like, oh, does she need anything? What does she want for Christmas? Whatever. And I will tell them, like, if there's something that we want, I will literally send it to them and say, I think that she would really love this. Like that would make her so happy to receive another card for her Yodel cube or something like that. But if they do get her things that it's pretty clear she doesn't need, or we don't necessarily want them, I have just come to the place where I don't really make a big deal out of it. I don't have the conversation. Once it's bought, once it's given, like I might have a conversation later if, hey, I thought we've talked about this, whatever. I might have a boundary conversation, but in the moment, like especially around Christmas and birthdays, it's fine. I just know that I have full reign to declutter whatever I need to declutter. And that's the ticket for me, because one of the reasons why I would stress about that was because I felt like we had to keep it, and I felt like we had to have it around, and then I had to manage it. And once I realized is that I can communicate our preferences as a family or boundaries that I want, she doesn't need any more clothes, or we really don't like toys like this or too stimulating for her. I can't control if they respect my boundaries, but I can control how I respond. And so I respond with peace and hopefully graciousness is how I try to respond. I let her enjoy it for the moment. I let it be what it is. And I know that if I need to declutter it next week or next month, it's gonna get decluttered and I don't feel bad about it. Where do you like to shop for clothes? So for the clothes question, I love Neuflora. They're a brand that I'm affiliate with. I just love the brand, I love the company. I also definitely buy a lot of thrifted Madewell items, particularly jeans. That's where I get my jeans. I love ThredUp, that's where I get stuff. I'm also not like a fashionista, to be completely honest. I mean, I know things that I like and things that make me feel beautiful, but fashion has never been a passion of mine. My sister's like all about that life. She informs me what is trendy. I could not care less, if I'm being honest, about what trends is whatever. How do you do decorations? All of my decorations for the holiday fit in you know what I'm talking about. They're like this big, they're like storage bins, and I put them in the garage. I just make sure that they can all fit into the storage bin. Something I've tried to do instead of, because it's so tempting, when you love the holidays like I do, you just want to buy everything because it gives you that feeling of like, Christmas is here, you're just like, you see anything Christmas related and you're like, ah. I try to do a lot more activities with my family. So like we do the Christmas lightings and we go to the, city events and we make gingerbread cookies and we watch Christmas movies. I do a lot more activities and I have found that to be really, really special and a balance. So we still have some decorations, but we've minimized and we focus on a lot more like experiential things that allow us to have activities around these certain holidays. Last question on minimalism, we'll move on to a different topic. Someone asked, how do you get to the point where you feel done and at rest? I don't feel like I've ever felt done in terms of minimizing, and maybe that's just the way that I look at it, but minimizing, to me, it's more of like a way of buying, a way of life, a way of running my home. I don't really think about it as a destination. Definitely I have less things than I did before, but even now it's still like decluttering is a part of my routine, having to be mindful about my purchases, making imperfect purchases and being like, I kind of went overboard with this and I need to declutter. I need to be more intentional about this. To me, it's an ongoing process. And I think it looks different for every family. I think the pursuit of a more simple life with less things and more intentionality around buying can always apply and enrich someone's life, but it will look different. One is not to compare yourself with anyone online because no one has your specific circumstances with your family, your living situation, how big your house is. And two, I think it more comes to the heart of like, are we accruing more than we can manage, right? Like, are we being intentional about what we're accruing? Because to me, minimalism is not just the things we have in decluttering, but then it's what you're bringing in. And those are like the two elements that are constantly moving that you're like balancing. So there are times when I've been, I need to bring more intentionality to like, I've been kind of lax about just like bringing more things in that we don't need. And then there are other times when I'm like, I haven't decluttered in a long time and it shows. I need to kind of take care of my home in that way. So really just looking at those two outputs, it's like getting out and then what's coming in and starting to ask yourself questions like, where is the stress being caused? Like if you're stressed about it, where is there stress being caused? And then if it really is causing you stress, you don't feel bad about making more extreme decisions. Maybe another family of the same size of yours can keep this many things and it's not stressful to them, but it's more stressful to your family and it's causing more chaos, more fights between the kids, more stress for you to manage. You don't have to have as much stuff. You know what I mean? Like you can make decisions based on what's best for your family, your circumstances. I got personal questions about like me, marriage, faith. It was weird to say, let's just start talking about me, but we're just gonna talk about me, I guess. Got a lot of people asking when I came to know the Lord. I was raised in a home that taught the gospel. I always knew Jesus and I really did think that I put my faith in him at a younger age, probably teenage years. I just always had a relationship with the Lord and knew like Jesus is my savior and walked my life in that way, but I don't feel like it became close, if that's how I can explain it. There was something about becoming a parent, becoming like forced to reckon with where I put my trust in because I had this little human that I wanted to protect, but you also recognize like just how not in control you really are of so many things. I do feel like it added an element to my faith that was much more tangible, like walking with the Lord every single day became more of the norm for me because I really needed it. And it's just so sweet. It's become so sweet. Oh, I did get a question about hair care and like minimalism hair care. Y'all, I don't have anything to share on this front, and if I do, I will share it. I used to have curly hair, like legit curly. I'm half Arabic. Arab curly wavy hair. When I got pregnant, it went stick straight, like gone. All my curls gone. And I had a minor identity crisis about it because I loved my wavy hair. It just felt like it was my personality. It just felt like me. And then I looked in the mirror and I was like, I don't know what to do with this girl. She has like straight hair. It's weird. It's weird. I still don't really have a hair items I love, hair care, whatever. I really do just use shampoo and conditioner. But if that changes and I actually find things that I like, I will share them with you. How do you deal with constant advice as a mom? There are people that I trust to give wise counsel. In my marriage, in my motherhood, I have trusted friends, I have trusted mentors. But I'm also not just like this open for any and all advice kind of person. I always run it through the filter of like where the person's coming from. Are they in your situation? If you have someone that's trying to give you advice about motherhood that's not a mom, or you have 8 kids and they have 2, that's not to say that you cannot glean wisdom from them. That's not what I'm saying, but it's just something to keep in mind. It's just been so much more relaxing to me to realize like, I am the filter for that. So like I can take that and be like, oh, I wonder if there's wisdom that I can glean in this, and just kind of like remove the rest if it doesn't apply to me or doesn't apply to my family's values or my situation, whatever. And 2, even if I disagree with that advice, I don't have to take it personally. I don't have to be offended about it. I can just say, okay, like I appreciate their thoughts, and that's that. When I was pregnant, I had planned and did an unmedicated birth outside of the traditional hospital system. I had family members who love me, whom I love, that were not happy about the decision. And early on in my pregnancy, they made it very, very known about that. And I had to have conversations with them and say, like, I love you. I know that this is coming from a concern for me, but this is actually very unhelpful for me. I've made the research. I make the decision that is the best decision for me and for our family. Please like refrain from talking about this anymore. That's what I've learned. Making boundaries in love, being firm with those boundaries, being gracious, and not taking things personally. I also got a lot of questions about like how I do YouTube as a mom. I don't know if you'd be interested in seeing like a day in the life of like how I logistically do that. I can totally make a video about that if y'all are interested. But long story short, I usually film once a week. And my husband will take her to the park in the afternoon and I'll film for less than an hour. And I edit after she goes to bed for an hour, sometimes most nights, or my husband, she'll play. She's old enough now where sometimes she'll like be playing independently. Oh, I can hear her. I think she's expiring. Let's talk about motherhood, because this is it's pretty timely. This is happening. Oh, love. We're just gonna knock him out here because she's expiring. I got questions if we want more babies. Yes, we definitely want more babies. I got a question if we ever did sleep training with her. We did not. The last question I want to talk about is becoming a stay-at-home mom. I got questions on like how do you deal with the loneliness, or someone said that they experienced a lot of anger at the transition, and what made me decide to be a stay-at-home mom. So I knew I wanted to stay at home, and the way that my husband and I had always dealt with our finances, because we were both working, but we always lived off of his salary, and my salary, anything that I made was used to pay off student loan debts, save, invest, all of that. And that was really great advice that had been given to us when we were a young couple, when we did our premarital counseling, so that we were able to go to home, like for me not working anymore. That doesn't mean it didn't require sacrifice or that it wasn't difficult. It was more that we had always planned on it. And so I am so supremely grateful. That doesn't mean it wasn't easy. And it did bring up a lot of emotional things. I did get questions regarding like the loneliness aspect and the anger, like mom rage or control, like that came up. There were 2 things that I will say about this. One is it has been literally life-changing for me to like find community and meet up with other moms. I have a lot of mom friends from church. I also joined like an accidental play group going to the playground, which is moms that were meeting. And I was like, oh, can I just join up here? And I will say it was honestly harder when she was younger, because in the first, my daughter walked at 10 months. And once 10 months came, it became so much easier because I kind of felt like I could like take her to the park and she could play and interact. But before that, I didn't put myself out there, and I felt weird with a baby, like going to a playground with moms of toddlers because my kid couldn't do those things. Looking back, I wish I would have just done it, because having that community, having moms to meet up with, joining mom groups, Facebook groups, whatever it is huge. Like being able to have, not just for your kids to be able to play with other kids and learn how to share, you know, things like that, like how to resolve arguments, which all toddlers, they all need to learn to do. But being able to just be around other moms and chat, we're so designed for community. And I'm so grateful now. My experience of motherhood is radically different now that I have mom friends whom I love and can trust and are close with, versus in the beginning when I didn't feel like that loneliness, that is real. Then the second thing I want to say is motherhood has been a massive lesson in me laying down my idol of control. And I found that a lot of the idols I had, a lot of the resentment that was brewing towards my husband, or when I would get angry at my kid for needing me, like the fear I had over not being able to protect her, so much of it came down to my idol of control, of finding safety in the things that I could control. And motherhood really will just blow that up. You really realize just how little you are in fact in control. And I think that that's also why my walk with the Lord has become so much more intimate in motherhood, because I am having to rely on his peace and his faithfulness over my own, because I've really come to realize, for various reasons, things that have happened, just by day to day of being a mom and realizing how not in control you are, that I am not in control. And I have found that for me, as someone that has struggled with anger and has struggled with resentment and anxiety, finding safety in what I could control was such a lie that kept me in those places. And having to walk in surrender and faith has radically altered the way that I experience motherhood, my marriage, the day-to-day life. It's not easy and it's an ongoing process, but for me, that has been huge, 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 huge. I hope I answered a lot of questions. This was way too long. I'm probably still gonna have to edit this. I am Jess. I make videos on minimalism, slow living, intentional motherhood. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for being here.